I want to start out with some introductions and housekeeping before we go on the record. I am Teresa Stanley. I'll be the lead judge for purposes of this hearing and deciding this case. However, Judge Richard Tay and Daniel Cho will be co-equal decision makers in this. We'll deliberate after your case and reach a decision. Can I start with the appellant and have you state your names for the record?
Michele Cooper.
And I'm Sahar Bijan on behalf of Michele.
Thank you. And for Franchise Tax Board?
Brian Working for Franchise Tax Board.
Marguerite Michele for Franchise Tax Board.
Okay. I have two issues for today. One is whether appellant can establish that the federal determination that disallowed $5,500 of non-cash charitable deductions for tax year 2013 is incorrect. And appellant has also requested relief from interest. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that your understanding as well?
That is.
Okay, and we had discussed at the pre-hearing conference that appellant has exhibits 1 through 8, and respondent has exhibits A through I. There were previous stipulations to those being admitted. Are there any current objections by either side, or do you have any new documents that you wanted to present today?
Were appellant's exhibits 1 through 4?
1 through 8. Oh, my notes say 8, but my binder says 4. Okay, thank you for that correction. So I'm going to go on the record at this point. This is the appeal of Michele Cooper, case number 18011424. The date is August 21st, 2019. The time is 10:06 a.m. and we're in Los Angeles, California. Once again, for the record, I'm Judge Teresa Stanley, and I have Judge Richard Tay and Judge Daniel Cho, who is replacing Judge Douglas Bramhall, who was originally assigned to this case. And once again, for the record, can you please identify yourselves?
Sure. As on the documents, I just want to be clear, as on the documents, my name is Michele Cooper, but it has since been changed to Michele Peterson.
Michele Peterson, thank you.
Peters.
Peters,
Yes.
okay. And you would like to be addressed by Peters?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Sahar Bijan.
And
Brian Working, Franchise Tax Board.
Marguerite Michele, Franchise Tax Board.
Okay, thank you. And we are going to admit appellant's exhibits 1 through 4 into the record at this time, and Franchise Tax Board's exhibits A through I into evidence without objection. So those will all be admitted. The issues are whether appellant can establish that the federal determination disallowing $5,500 of non-cash charitable deductions for taxable year 2013 is correct or incorrect, and appellant also is requesting relief from interest. Ms. Bijan, if you would like to start for the purposes of explaining what your client is going to testify to today, you can have 10 minutes, or I think you requested 5 minutes for an opening statement.
Thank you. As Ms. Cooper agrees herself, the only issue is whether she should be allowed the deduction of $5,500 with the charitable donations made to Goodwill. pursuant to IRC Section 170A1, charitable donations shall be allowed as a deduction. Ms. Cooper hired Parafinancial to prepare her 2013 federal and California taxes. Parafinancial was managed by Ms. Linda Yost Brown, which Ms. Cooper believed to have eminent tax experience and expertise. Ms. Cooper had little reason to question Yost Brown's tax guidance, nor 2013 tax return that was prepared by her. Unfortunately, Yost Brown fell ill and deceased in the middle of the inquiries from the IRS, which made it impossible for Ms. Cooper to retrieve the evidentiary support she had previously provided to Yost Brown. Given her circumstances, Ms. Cooper decided to try and finish the process by herself with the IRS. Ms. Cooper's total charitable deduction should not be disallowed because her accountant passed away. She was unable to retrieve her proving documents and she did not hire a professional accountant. Regarding the $11,000 of non-cash contribution, Ms. Cooper maintains that the disallowed $5,500 be allowed. The non-cash donated merchandise, including purses and shoes, had a special meaning to her. Ms. Cooper had to part from these items due to her move to East Coast. Those high-ended purses, shoes, and clothing were well cared for and amounted to thousands of dollars. Her DVD player, television, and DVD media were also well cared and fully functional at the time of the donation. All of the donated items were like new condition, hence she should be allowed the deduction of $5,500. In addition, Ms. Cooper maintains that the assessed interest also be waived. United States v. Boyle held that when an accountant or attorney advises a taxpayer on a matter of tax law, such as whether a liability exists, it's reasonable for the taxpayer to rely on that advice. Here, Ms. Cooper paid for and reasonably relied upon Yost Brown to provide tax guidance and to accurately file her 2013 return. Yost Brown was recommended to Ms. Cooper by several close friends who were financially in the same situation. In addition, Yost Brown had an extensive history in accounting and tax, who operated under Parafinancial, which held her as enrolled agent and taxpayers expert. Ms. Cooper's reliance upon Yost Brown's advice in 2013 was not misplaced. Although FDP is not contesting Ms. Cooper on reasonable cause, it's worth noting that she did nonetheless exercise ordinary business care and prudence with respect to her 2013 federal and California returns. Ms. Cooper is now aware that making a non-cash contribution over $5,000 requires the completion of Form 8283 and an appraisal by a qualified appraiser. She also now has learned that failing to comply with the non-cash contribution rules can result in a denial of the deduction. However, her unfamiliarity with the requirement of the law in the preparation of her 2013 return was not deliberate or in bad faith. Had she been aware that she was required to obtain a qualified appraisal and to complete Form 8283, she would have done so back then when she made the donations. In addition, had Ms. Cooper been aware that Goodwill's failure to not note the donation date on one of the receipts would cause her tax problems, she would also have corrected the issues back then. Regrettably, with the passage of time and with the passing of Yost Brown, it has become prohibitive to undertake those prescribed actions now. Even then, The IRS publication 526 states that fair market value is the price at which property would change hands between a willing buyer and a willing seller. Thus, FDB should allow the deduction of $5,500. The entire $11,000 originally claimed is correct in that it represented the fair market value of the items at the time of the donation. This is evidenced by a sampling of screenshot from internet which shows the prices for similar items in the open market. The screenshots represent the type of items that Ms. Cooper donated and that they were of the same pristine quality at the time of donation. Unfortunately, other evidence supporting the fair market value is no longer available due to the passage of time. However, applying a formulaic 2/3 to the retail price is fair and not excessive in that closely resembles the resale market price for her high-end purses, shoes, and other belongings. In addition, Ms. Cooper is here to testify under oath as to the value of their items.
Thank you. Thank you. Would Franchise Tax Board like to make or waive their opening argument?
No, we'll waive our opening argument.
Okay. Thank you. Then we'll turn back to Ms. Peters, and I'm going to swear you in, if you don't mind standing up. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Sani, you can ask questions now of the witness. Or does she want to, would she rather testify in the narrative, just tell her story?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure. As was stated in the opening statement, all of my records were kept to the best of my knowledge. They were all accurate documents, and the fact that I did do diligent research to see what was considered fair market value. I looked at the websites, I looked at everything prior to donating. In all honesty, you know, over the course of a year, you take items to Goodwill, they just give you one of the forms and you leave, and then you document what you believe is you have provided, and that's what happened in this case. I gave all of my supporting documents to the lady that prepared my taxes, which I had been doing so, and when the appeal came up for federal court, she was representing me. She did go to the first meeting prior to falling ill, then she fell ill, and then she passed away, and then I went to represent myself and try to solve the case or close the case. Upon being there, I explained to them exactly what I was explaining to you. At the time, it was $11,000 instead of the $5,500. I honestly did not know what I was doing as far as representing, and you know, I just told him the same thing I told you. He said he had not looked at it in that manner, and he would take that into consideration. And then he was like, I don't have time to research this any further, so I'm just going to, and you can see, I'm just going to do it in half. And so that was it. I did not know it would cause additional problems or anything like that. Had I known that, I would have taken other precautionary measures. I would ask that he look at it. But due to the circumstances, the tax representative was not there. I didn't know to challenge it or to push it, or that it would come to be a problem years later. But I've always tried to keep diligent records. I've always been compliant. I've responded to every response that I've ever gotten and given them the information. Unfortunately, when the taxpayer passed away, even though I did, you know, pay my outstanding fees, I never received back my original documents. So there are documents that she has that I don't have. This is everything that I do have that I have presented to you.
Okay. Mr. Working, do you
I do not have any questions for the witness.
Judge Cho, any questions?
I don't have any questions at this time.
Judge Jay?
Maybe just one question. You submitted 2 goodwill, I guess receipts, for maybe lack of a better word. Did you, when you donated the property, was it just those 2 times that you did?
No, sir. And I believe if I had my original folder from the tax lady, that you would see that there were other receipts as well.
Other receipts?
Yeah, other goodwill receipts.
Oh, I see. Okay, and did you ever, like, I know it's possible to make donations via like a drop-off, you know,
Mhm.
did you ever do that, or you just dropped it off at an unattended facility?
Yeah, so I always use the same facility. It's the one on Lake Street in Pasadena. Yeah, right off of Lake Street. There's usually a attendant there. Usually when I go, I put everything in garbage bags. I drop it off. They give you the piece of paper. There were a couple of times throughout the year that there was no one there, but I never thought it was a big deal. But I always go to the same place. Yeah, I always drop it off.
Okay, thank you.
I have just a couple of questions. First of all, you said that you were, you had to get rid of them. Well, actually, Ms. Sonny testified to that instead of you.
Yeah.
Is it your testimony, you had to get rid of a lot of things that meant a lot to you?
I purged a lot of things that did mean a lot to me, just because when I was moving, I wanted to keep it as small and as simple as possible. And so I ended up giving away a lot.
When did you move?
I left in March of 2016.
Okay. Have you ever sold any of your high-end items instead of donating them?
To be honest, I have not. I always either gave to Goodwill, or there's a group at my church that I gave to.
Okay.
I have not sold them.
And you said that you couldn't get a hold of your original documents. Did you ever try to do that?
Yes, ma'am, and I have copies of the email that, I don't have copies of the phone records, but I do have copies of the emails. And after she passed, I was still contacted by, at the time, it was her daughters, I think, that were taking over. I don't know who runs the business today. They said that I still owed a balance of $375, I think, or maybe it was $325. I have the email somewhere in here. I sent over that email. I also sent over emails explaining to them that I did not receive the documents. I gave them the address to send it to me, and to this day, I never got anything back, but I did pay to get those items back, and I never received them. And that was even after she had passed.
I think it might be useful to have some of those documents admitted into evidence. Would there be any objection by Franchise Tax Board?
I don't think so, but I'd like to see them before they're admitted.
Okay.
Okay. We can ask Ms. Vaughn to make a copy for the judges and for Franchise Tax Board, and I'll reserve on whether to admit them. Give you an opportunity to look at them.
It wouldn't be the last thing you. Yeah, because I just printed these to run Monday. I just printed them Monday, so.
Well, maybe we can take a 5-minute break and look through that. Unless you want to finish up and we'll hold the record open for a few more minutes after we're done with the hearing, so that we can allow franchise tax board time to.
To see the, yes,
Yeah.
I can show them too.
Okay, so we'll just hold on that issue for a moment, and Ms. Sani, do you have any additional questions of Ms. Peters?
Yes.
Okay, certainly, Judge.
Do you have any evidence or documents as to the value of items that were dropped off in an unattended donation center?
So the problem is they weren't brand new, you know. Sorry. The problem is they weren't brand new, so I don't have like the receipts. I gave him one receipt, it was like a Louis Vuitton bag or something. And I don't know how far back credit card statements would go, but with me, I don't have like any receipts of when I actually purchased the items. That sounds like what you're asking me.
No, not so much how much you paid for them,
Okay.
but the items that were donated at an unattended drop-off center. Do you have any evidence to show what items those were when you dropped them off?
There were a few pictures I thought in here, like the Coach bag, the various shoes, can't remember who made that bag right there in that picture. But,
If
yeah,
I can just interrupt for a second, it looks like there's some of that in Exhibit 3. There's a list with some of what
yes.
is supposed to support the values. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
And Judge Terry. And just to follow up with that, Ms. Sani mentioned that you were promoting the idea that 2/3 of the value, 2/3 of the original value would be a good fair market value. Is that, does that match what you have in Exhibit 3?
That is based on, is this Exhibit 3? Yes, that's based on the Exhibit 3 in the picture and on the Goodwill. So I showed you the calculation that I used is based off of those two websites. What is Shop Goodwill, which is the company that I gave the products to, what are they reselling it for? And then a similar company, which is called Bag, Borrow, and Steal, what do they seem and also consider to be fair market value? What do they pay you for if you were to give it to them and they were to resell it? And they pay you about 70% of the value of it. So that's where, between those two websites is how I calculated the fair market price.
Thank you.
And I believe that those screenshots were from that time period.
Do you have any further questions? Judge Cho?
None here.
Mr. Working?
No questions.
Okay. So I assume that this is the only witness, correct? Okay, so then we can move into closing arguments, and I'll start with Ms. Sani.
It is not disputed that Ms. Cooper owned the items, that she donated these items to Goodwill, and that the charity was valid. And the only evidence presented about the market value of the items is what Ms. Cooper testified under oath.
Thank you. Mr. Working?
Good morning. The issue in this case is whether appellant has met her burden to show error in the disallowance of $5,500 of her claimed $11,000 non-cash contribution deduction that is based on the federal disallowance of the same, and appellant requests abatement of interest. Appellant has not established error in the proposed assessment or any basis for the abatement of interest. It is well settled that a proposed deficiency assessment by the respondent that is based on a federal adjustment is presumptively correct, and the appellant bears the burden of proving it erroneous. Deductions are a matter of legislative grace, and appellant has the burden to prove that she's met all of the requirements in order to be entitled to her claim deduction. California law conforms to federal law regarding non-cash contribution deductions. The law provides that no deduction shall be allowed for any contribution of $250 or more unless the taxpayer substantiates the contribution by a contemporaneous written acknowledgement of the contribution by the donee organization showing the name of the donee, the date and the location of the contribution, and a description of the property. Appellant has provided 2 receipts from Goodwill of Southern California, but only one of which includes the date of the contribution as required by law. Additionally, the law requires that no deduction shall, or specifies that no deduction shall be allowed for contributions of property for which a deduction of more than $5,000 is claimed unless a qualified appraisal is obtained. All similar items of property donated are treated as one property for purposes of this threshold amount. In this case, appellant's non-cash contribution schedule includes the following similar used items: used clothing, used shoes, used purses, and wallets. The aggregate reported value of these similar items is $10,217, which exceeds the $5,000 threshold, requiring a qualified appraisal. However, appellant has not provided a qualified appraisal with her return, or at protest, or at appeal. As such, appellant has not established entitlement to a non-cash contribution deduction for the clothing, shoes, or purses donated. Lastly, appellant's valuation of her donated items is not supported by the facts, and her valuation method is not accepted by the IRS. Appellant contends that the value of her donated items is approximately 2/3 of the suggested retail price of the item donated. IRS publication 526 specifically explains that formulas using a percentage of the cost to buy a new replacement item is not an acceptable method to determine its value. The publication suggests that a taxpayer should claim as the value of contributed used clothing or personal items is the price that buyers of used items actually pay in used clothing stores such as consignment or thrift shops. Goodwill itself provides a donation value guide in which the prices for clothing and purses do not exceed $13. A search of Goodwill's online store indicates that purses from the designers of the purses purportedly donated have prices between $10 and $35, as provided in Respondent's Exhibit H. Appellant has not provided the necessary substantiation documentation, appraisal documentation, or support for her valuation of her non-cash contributions. Accordingly, appellant has not shown error in the proposed disallowance of $5,500 of her non-cash contribution deduction. In regards to interest, respondent's imposition of interest is mandatory, and respondent is not allowed to abate interest except where authorized by law. Appellant has not established any basis for the abatement of interest, and none is apparent to respondent based on the facts in this case. Accordingly, respondent respectfully requests that this panel sustain its actions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sani, would you like a follow-up comment? Hold on one second. Judge Cho has a question.
I just wanted to ask FTV, in this situation, is FTV giving appellant any value for any of the donated items? Or are you just considering it completely disallowed as a zero?
Well, what we're doing is we're piggybacking off of the federal adjustment, and so we're not disallowing any more than what the IRS determined to allow. But my argument is that the appellant hasn't even met the burden to show that they're entitled to that amount. So they have not met, the appellant has not met her burden to show error in the federal adjustment.
Okay, so
Can I add something to that?
sure.
Revenue and Taxation Code Section 18622A requires an individual taxpayer to report federal adjustments that increase his or her California tax liability and concede that those adjustments are accurate unless the taxpayer shows the error. So FTB is correct in making the same adjustment, proposing the same adjustments that the IRS did. And as the appellant noted, it appears that the IRS already allowed 50% of the deduction. So to that extent, FTB is also allowing 50% of that deduction.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Okay, I have another question.
All right, so just to clarify, if for appellant to kind of prove part of their case, would they have to show that their donations are in excess of $5,500?
The valuation of, yes, correct.
Okay, so to reduce the proposed assessment, then they would have to show that they donated they made non-cash contributions of say $6,000 to reverse $500. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, and did taxpayer claim these deductions in any subsequent year? You know?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay. And I guess the last question I had is what authority is there to combine these kind of or aggregate these items as similar? And I ask maybe just out of some ignorance here. I mean, when I walk into like a Macy's, there are different departments for different things, and so to me they're just different products. But educate me on that a little bit.
Within IRC section 170 sets out, I think IRC section 170 F11F specifies that all items, similar items of property are treated as one property. I don't have, I mean, I'm not aware of a particular case that specifies what type of used clothing might, or used purses would be in the same category. I just used personal items, such as these, respondent feels that these would be similar items.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I also have one more follow-up question. What relevance, if any, is there to the fact that she claims to have had receipts that she has been unable to obtain? So
Which,
she can't it's like an impossibility of proving it at this point.
And respondent is, sympathetic to this situation, to that fact, but without the actual substantiation, there's no reasonable cause or similar type basis that would establish entitlement to a particular deduction without some substantiation, documentation to substantiate evaluation or otherwise.
One final question. If the taxpayer did not receive a receipt on account that there was no one available at the time of the donation, how would you treat that?
If the items that were donated at that time exceeded $250, that would be disallowed. That is one of the requirements to receive a contemporaneous document receipt with with the name of the donee, the date of the location of the contribution, and a description of the property as reasonable at the time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, given that, Ms. Sani, do you have Do you want to ask any follow-up questions of Ms. Peters, or would you like to just have a concluding statement?
I don't have any question, but I believe she has a few questions that I want to ask.
I don't know if there are questions, because I don't know if you have the ability to answer, but just in response to a couple of items that you did point out, again, it is unfortunate. I did not try to do my taxes on my own. I did seek professional help. I did pay for professional help. So when you make comments saying that we are not supposed to have a claim for more than $5,000 without filling out a certain document, I would feel that the tax person, unfortunately who is not here, should have informed me of all the documents that I needed to fill out. In addition to, I'm not sure if you had a chance to speak with, and this is a question as well as a statement, had a chance to speak with or interview the IRS rep. I believe his name was Joseph. I don't remember his last name, but he's in El Segundo over here. He also did not mention any of this to me. He also did not have a concern with any of these items. So I don't know if I understand the argument. So I'm just wondering if that due diligence was done on the behalf of this particular case. You also mentioned, you gave some statistics or some stats on goodwill, but I've also supplied in the documents what is actually listed on goodwill.com that directly contradicts the statement that you just made. We also could pull it up today and you would see that those particular items are being sold on shopgoodwill.com for that item. That would be improved today if you were just to do a Google search. So that also contradicts the statement that you were making. So I guess I am just asking that you consider that I've done everything on my part possible. Judge Tate also mentioned there are times, and I'm sure you yourself have gone to Goodwill and donated things and have gotten documents back that were not completely filled. I do, as a result of going through this, I do either no longer donate, or when I do donate, I do ask for completed documents on everything, and it is not an easy process. I will admit that, to get that, but I'm just asking that you consider some of these things that I've just proposed to you.
Okay, so that's not exactly a question, but it does sound like a concluding argument. Ms. Honey, do you have anything more to add?
No.
Okay. Then we'll conclude this hearing. Well, I'm going to recess the hearing to allow Ms. Peters to locate those emails and get a copy to Franchise Tax Boards, and then we can briefly go back on the record to admit them or not and close the record at that point. And once we close the record, you'll be issued a decision within 100 days. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.